I pray a trusting spirit to know what is best for those for whom I pray. I pray for others by affirming their highest good. I release the idea that I know the right answer or outcome and confidently place all in God's care. Peace enfolds me, and when I place my faith in the Christ essence and power within others to heal, comfort, prosper, and guide them. As I pray for others, I also pray for my own understanding and faith to be quickened so that I may be calm and reassuring presence. If I become tempted by fear and worry, I remind myself that my energy is best for positive, faith-filled thoughts, words, and feelings. I release and redirect my attention as needed, knowing I am keeping the high watch for those I hold in prayer. I thank my God every time I remember you, constantly praying with joy in every one of my prayers for all of you. Philippians 1:3-4.
To be honest with you, it was a rough week. So I had already done a talk on faith this month, but I needed to do another one. even though you want your faith to be strong, it just isn't what you hope. I'm sorry. Let me just reset here a moment. Thank you. Wow. It's not the way I planned to start. Anyway, so I needed to do another talk on faith, and I thought, well, what can I talk about differently? And those of you who follow Unity for any length of time may be familiar with Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth. And this, we could spend weeks on this book because it's filled with so much information. And it's in the, it's the 6th lesson that Emily Cady talks about faith. And it's kind of interesting. Emily Cady wrote a pamphlet back in 1948, and she had met Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. And so after she put together this pamphlet, what was it called? Finding the Christ in Ourselves. And you know, isn't it interesting, because I don't know about you, but when I was a kid growing up, there was no talk about Christ being inside of me. It was like I had to go looking somewhere else. It's somewhere outside me, because obviously I wasn't good enough to handle any spirituality. You know, it was just, I won't say because other people saw me lacking, but I saw myself lacking. I mean, isn't that too often what we're taught as children? You know, you're not good enough. What makes you think you can do that? I mean, when I wanted to become a school teacher, I told my dad, and he said, "Well, that's great, Nina, but you know, you gotta go to college for that. How do you think you would make that happen?" I said, "I don't know, Daddy, but I'll figure it out." And I think that's when you get into a situation, whether it's a situation that you want very badly, like going to college and meeting a career goal, or having a family, or whatever, you know, those good things in life. Or it's the situations in which you find yourself that aren't the easiest. You know, they're challenging. They're challenging even to those of you whose faith is, in normal circumstances, is unshakable. We can find ourselves in circumstances that shake our confidence, that shake our faith, that shake us right down to the core. And so I started reviewing this chapter on faith, and Ms. Cady says this about Jesus. Throughout Jesus' teaching, he tried to show those who listened to him how he was related to the Father. Now you have to think about the fact that Jesus lived over 2,000 years ago, and the way that they understood life, I mean, society as a whole, humankind as a whole, has matured and grown mentally, intellectually, spiritually, even physically. There's so many things that we can do now that we didn't even think we were capable of. I mean, you think of the 1 minute mile and those kinds of things. So back in Jesus' time, if he didn't talk about how he was related to his Father, they would be talking about, they wouldn't have any clue as what he was talking about. So kind of interpret this through a unity lens. Throughout his teachings, Jesus showed those who listened to him how he was related to the Father, and to teach them that they were related in exactly the same way. Over and over again, Jesus tried in different ways to explain to them that divine beingness, that God, whatever name you want to give it, lived within them. And this divinity is a God of the living, not of the dead. And that doesn't mean that once we die, we don't have a God anymore. We don't have a divinity anymore. We were, we are, and we always will be divine beings. There is no death. It's just a different phase of this existence called life. So, over and over, Jesus kept saying, it's not me, guys. It's that presence and power that works through me. And he doesn't just work through me, he works through each and every one of you. He said, of my own self I can do nothing. The Father that dwelleth in me doeth the work. He said, this teaching is not mine, but he who sent me. I have come down from heaven not to do my own will, but to do the will of he who sent me. And when we think of Jesus in terms of our way shower, we should be thinking of those very same messages in a similar way and putting ourselves in the picture. Putting ourselves in the picture of knowing that we are divine beings. And that's, if we get that, if we get the fact that we are divine beings, then even when you have a stupidly rough week, you can stand up here and shed a couple tears and know that it's okay. Because that divine beingness is working in, through, and as each one of us. And for whatever reason, I'm up here today sharing with you, not exactly what I plan to share with you, but sharing with you that even when things go not the way you want them to. I mean, I'll tell you part of the reason this week was so rough. I didn't have to go to chemo this week. And I was so excited because I thought, oh great, I'll get some energy back. Because I've just been sleeping all the time. So I thought, oh great, I don't have to go to chemo, I won't feel nauseous, I'll get some energy back. So what happens? I get a UTI. I was sick as a dog. I'm like, no! This is not fair. But, you know, and then I have friends show up with gifts and cards and love. That's the most important part. Because when you know that there are people who care, and it doesn't have to be shown with physical gifts, but physical presence, that's nice. Not presence with a TS, but presence with a C. What, P-R-E-S-E-N-C-E. Those are confusing words, you know? Anyway. So the people of Jesus' time, I found it very difficult to see themselves in the way that they saw Jesus. I mean, and that makes perfect sense. But the thing is, here over 2,000 years later, we're doing the same thing. We're not giving ourselves the credit that we deserve for being spiritual beings. When we hear Jesus' words, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or the words of the Bible, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Do you think that means it's just the people that stand up in front of churches, or just the people that I don't know, have a good job or lots of money or contribute a lot to a church? Baloney. I mean, the words that we speak, whether they come from a pulpit or come from talking to your next door neighbor, make such a difference in a person's life. I mean, and again, I'm going totally off my subject here, but our next door neighbor, an older lady, lovely person, and she was, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock at night the other night, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom on the doorbell, ring. I'm like, what the heck? We never get, nobody comes to our door after dark unless we know they're coming. Well, she had a pipe burst, and she knows that Mike is very good with property management stuff. And so he went right over and turned the water off for her, and, you know, it's all rolling for her and all that stuff. But isn't it nice to know you have a place to go? And she knew where to go. And we should also know where to go when we're having a hard time. And one of the good things, very good things about this low point for me this week was that I got to the point where I just, talk about surrender, talk about let go, let God. I said, I can't do this. I just can't do this on my own. I said, Divine Spirit, you gotta help me out here, because I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm reading, I'm studying, I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do. And still all this, I can't say it, is happening. And so I said, okay, I'm done. It's all on you. And you know, it was, I mean, I was pretty sure I had this infection. And I called one doctor, and their office was closed. And I called another doctor, and they said, oh no, we don't help you with that. It's a different oncologist. They said, no, we don't help you with that. You gotta go to the doctor whose office is closed. And of course, they're not closed. And I said, well, they're already closed. He said, well, then, how about your primary care physician? So I called my primary care physician. And this is like an hour and a half before the end of the working day. I'm thinking, and they had already done the test. The results were on my Beaumont chart. I do not know how to read a Beaumont chart. So anybody who's a nurse or a doctor, kudos to you, because I don't get it. But I knew there was information there that if I knew what was there, I could know whether or not I could get some help that I thought I might need. But of course, an hour and 15, 20 minutes, whatever it was not long enough for the doctor to look at the chart. Heaven forbid. So, no answer from that bad doctor. In fact, their answer was, well, you might want to try urgent care. Really? That's the best you can do? Do you know what it is? So anyway, and then so I just went to bed. So the next like at 7:30, which has become a normal bedtime. So the very next day, first thing in the morning though, the first doctor that I tried to call called me back, told me about the result, got me on a very strong antibiotic, and within 24 hours, I was starting to feel so much better. I mean, if I was feeling like I was feeling 3 days ago, you wouldn't be seeing me up here. You wouldn't want to be seeing me up here. Maybe you don't want to see me up here now anyway. Oh, I'm just crying. But anyway, but that's when, it's sometimes when you're at your lowest point, then you really get the message about faith. Because when you're at your lowest point, that's when you realize you're not in it by yourself, and you don't need to be in it by yourself. And there is a presence and power within you that can do all things. And they can make the right person show up at the right time with the right information and the right hugs or the right love or the right thing that you need at the time. And that's what I learned from this horrendous, no thank you, I don't want any more of those weeks. But who knows? You know, I've got a ways to go on this stuff, but it's the same power. Back to lessons in truth. It's hard for us to understand and have faith that the same powers available to Jesus are available to each and every one of us. And this I thought was really interesting, the way Miss Katie explained it. She said, the one presence and power that created all humankind did not make us and set us off from itself as a woodworker makes a table or a chair and then puts it away as something completed only to be returned to the maker when it needs repairing. Did you get that? We weren't just created and then said, okay, you're on your own, you know, deal with it. No. And especially when the times are challenging, that's when you don't have to deal with it alone. Because when we realize that presence and power living in, through, and as us can do all things, then instead of being broken down, we are broken open. And when we allow ourselves to be broken open, when we allow ourselves to let others in, to know who we really are, to share our inner thoughts, to share our love, to share our joy, to share our hopes, not only our hopes for ourselves, but our hopes for others. Because there's so many people in this world who are struggling. And one of the things that we have the opportunity to do here at Unity East and through the ministries we support is to help others. I mean, Reverend Kelly's services to the homeless community are just, when I saw that, you know, she was asking for these masks, you know, so that your face doesn't get cold when it's, I mean, it was really cold out there for a while. Thank goodness it's warmed up a little bit. It makes life easier for those folks. But she says, you know, as many as we can get, this would really be helpful. So I looked it up, I mean, they're not that expensive. But these people don't have the means to do this for themselves. That's a little thing that we can do. We can give to those less fortunate to ourselves. And we have to learn that we are the temples of the living God. And as such, we are literally the hands and feet on this plane of existence of that presence and power. So when we behave in a way that blesses others, we are behaving as that divine spirit moving in through and as us. In the chapter on faith, Emily Cady distinguishes between blind faith and understanding faith. Now, I was not really familiar with this. At least I'd forgotten it because I'd already read the book many times. But anyway, blind faith is seen as believing in something or someone without any evidence or logical reasoning. And so because that is the definition of blind faith, a lot of people began to question, this is according to Lessons in Truth, began to question the power of faith altogether. However, Ms. Cady goes on to explain, blind faith is an instinctive trust in a power higher than ourselves. Understanding faith is based on immutable principle. Now, I kind of had to look up immutable just to make sure that I was clear on what it meant. And that means unchangeable. This is a principle that does not change. Just like gravity, or 2 + 2 equals 4, or, the sum of the inside the triangle is whatever the degrees is. But an immutable principle has been shown to remain unchanged over time, and Ms. Cady goes on to tell us that understanding faith does not depend on physical facts or evidence of the senses because it is born of intuition. And that intuition, she says, is the invisible channel ever connecting each one of us to our individual divinity. Did you ever think of that? I mean, and sometimes, I know everybody's experienced some sort of intuition somewhere along the way where you just went, oh, I definitely need to do this, or I definitely need to stay away from that. I mean, and you know it. You know it in your gut, you know it in your heart, and sometimes you pay attention to it, and sometimes we screw up. Been there, done that. So anyway, so just like that invisible channel, I like to tell stories. And I heard about this lady, and this evidently is a true story. Her name was Carol, and she had just finished directing a children's play shop, like a workshop, but for kids. And after it was over, she, went to her car, intending to just go, be done with her day. And she looked, and all around her car, there were 3 other almost identical blue cars. And she thought, what's with the blue cars, That's odd. What are the odds that, so many blue cars would be all around my car? But she didn't really think too much about it. She just felt that she was ready to get into her car. She had hesitated, observing the blue cars long enough, that somebody noticed her, and one of the blue car doors opened, and it was a friend that she hadn't seen in quite some time. And so they went, oh my gosh, had a nice conversation, chatted each other up a bit, got updated contact information, and then went on their ways. And so as Carol's been driving down the road, she sees another blue car. I don't know if it was one of the same ones or a different one, but she sees this blue car up ahead of her on the road, and all of a sudden it pulls over the side of the road, slams to a stop, and lady jumps out of the front seat and runs around the back door and opens the back door, and she's like, you can tell she's panicking. And so Carol had just finished taking CPR classes, and something in her told her that she needed to stop and she could be of some help here. So she got out of her car, a sense of urgency just flooded her. She ran up to the car, and here's the little boy in the back seat who'd been chewing on a piece of chocolate and had gotten stuck in his throat. Because she knew CPR, knew what to do, she literally saved that little boy's life. Now think about it. If she had not stopped long enough to notice the 3 blue cars, then would she have been there long enough for her friend to see her and for them to talk for however many minutes they talked? And had they not talked for however many minutes it was before she left down the road, then she would not have seen the other second blue car pull over at the side of the road. And had she not seen all these blue cars and had this blue car phenomenon going on in her world that day, would she have, A, would she have been there, and B, would she have pulled over? But the truth is, there is a divine presence and power. And it knows what we need. It knew that Carol had the skills and the abilities, and that little boy needed her, and that mother needed her. And because she listened to that guidance, because and sometimes we have to pay attention, and sometimes it just kind of clobbers us over the head. And in this case, it was I talk about divine timing. How much better can it be than that? So there's a part of us that knows. And it knows, and we don't really understand how it knows, but it knows. And we just have to trust. We have to trust that guidance and know that all things are working together for our highest good, even when we're feeling miserable. And it seems like everything is going against us. We have to know that all things are working together for our highest good. Do you know how many times I must have said that this week? But it's true. Because if you think of like almost some of the most challenging things that have ever happened in your life, if you think about when you were in the midst of them, you thought it was the worst thing in the world. But if you look back at it from maybe a few months, maybe even a few years, you know that even though at the time it seemed terrible, in the end it was indeed for your highest good. So the mental and spiritual world are realms, and we have within us a spiritual realm and a physical realm. And we have to recognize that physical realm wants to be in charge. That's that ego side of us, that side of us that says, oh, I know better. I've got all the answers. You don't have to listen to that spiritual stuff. But if we learn to listen, because the spiritual stuff is never going to scream at us, but our ego will. How could you let them say that to you? Don't you think you should get back to them and let them have a piece of your mind? No. But that's what the ego does. But Spirit's not going to do that. Spirit is going to say, all things are working together for your highest good. And getting into a big tussle with Susie Q or Johnny whoever is not going to change it. But it's going to make you feel worse and make you look bad. So we just have to remember that the stuff that we learn here, the stuff that we've been reading about and learning from Unity teachings and classes and messages and books and all of the other wonderful resources that we've come across over the years, those are the things, those are the teachings that changed our lives. At least it sure did mine. I honestly don't know how I'd be handling this if it wasn't for Unity teachings. Because this is, again, I'm so grateful. I've had no idea how many other people have gone through the same or very similar circumstances and have come up to me and said, mine was 8 years ago, mine was 13 years ago, mine was this many years ago, and I'm fine. And it's just such a blessing to have these people in my life and know that they are there. They've been through it, been there, done that. Piece of cake, got it done. So, whatever we ask in prayer, we believe we have received it, and it is yours. And that takes faith. Namaste. So take a few moments and take a couple of nice deep breaths. Quiet your heart. Allow the Spirit, that whisper, that soft, sweet voice that may sound like a voice or may just be a breeze or light or air. But feel that presence and power, because it's a feeling. It's a feeling of comfort. It's a feeling of trust. It's a feeling of knowing that all things are working together for our highest good, even when we can't see it. So let's remember who we really are. That we are divine beings. We are temples of the one presence and power. We are here not just for ourselves, but for each other. Because we are one. All humankind is one. We all have this in common. We breathe the same air. The same blood runs through our bodies. We are all divine beings. And we are so grateful for this knowing and so grateful for appreciating this knowledge. So let's take a few minutes in the silence and just develop our connection with our own inner self. slowly move from that place of oneness back into the physical world, we know that everything that we felt there remains real, remains available to us at all times. And we're so grateful for this knowing, so grateful for how we've been taught to pray by our Lord Jesus with the Lord's Prayer. And now it's time for our tithes and offerings. So this is the time that we get to give back, and we get to share with Unity East. And Unity East, as you know, tithes also to other worthy causes and to our Unity Worldwide that supports us. Because we would have none of this. We would have none of these teachings. We would have had none of this effect on so many people's lives were it not for Charles and Myrtle Fillmore getting together and doing a little study group back in the 40s or 30s, whenever it was. It was a long time ago. And so we're so grateful for that. And so let's take our tithes, our gifts and our tithes in our hands. I knew it was going to be this. It's so cool. So it's printed on your envelopes, but it's also right up here. So let's say together, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give joyfully and easily, for the universe is my source, and abundance is my nature. tough times, we can still have faith. And if our faith isn't strong enough, we have people we can call. And if we can't get a hold of any people, there's still a place that we can go to and a name that we can call that is always, always there. So let's close with our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God